dirty.
Splatoon will splatter your
It was good. I missed my flight, but it was a free makeup flight, so I didn't care. Basically poor planning on Toronto traffic and bad Uber drivers.
Everyone but you, huh?
What?
Whoa. And Control is insinuating that you're not taking personal responsibility for your poor planning and instead trying to shift the blame onto other people.
I just said poor planning for bad traffic.
Could have been anyone, man. Could have been anyone planning. Could have been the Uber driver.
Yeah, we asked the Uber driver to plan. Apparently, like, 9 other people at our event also missed their flights, though. Like, I don't know. We have, like, a pretty high percentage of people. Pearson Airport doesn't like us.
Well, at least you didn't wake up in the grass outside of a Tim Hortons, right?
Jesus.
What? Oh, that story. Yes.
Wait, what story? Is this public knowledge?
I don't know, so I think we'll leave it at
I don't know.
that.
Oh my god, kill yourself.
Wow.
You're this disgusting human being. Holy shit.
Right? Morrow, glad to have you here. Your first time on the show. Thank you for making the transition into the light side of the Force. How's your weekend been?
My weekend's been good, man. I've been relaxing quite a bit, streaming some, and I'm glad to be here on the show for the first time. Thanks for the invite.
Glad to have you here, buddy. And as the co-host, Steven, what have you been up to?
I'm just playing games, playing Hearthstone. I got Legendary. Tried really hard. Yeah, I did it.
All right, real talk. Was this because of your viewers helping you, or was this all Steven all the way?
No, it was a lot of shit. I got good coaching from Hafu and a couple other people. I used good decks, and then lots of input from viewers. A few viewers. Sorry, a few viewers who are good. Majority of the viewers are fucking stupid.
Lots of input from viewers, but you used it from a few. Right.
Something like that.
Every Hearthstone stream, I'm told, is the backseat driving of, like, the Millennium. It's where they all come from.
See, I guess that would be, in Hearthstone, with that overabundance would be kind of crappy, because then you have everyone with their opinion. In Starcraft, you know, you can't really take everyone backseat driving into opinion while streaming most of the time. But I think I wouldn't mind it in Starcraft, or in Hearthstone, if I didn't have so many people throwing shit at me. So I imagine you can't put too much thought into that and how you play your game. Either way, Jeff, how you been?
Good. Just went down to San Diego, had a nice couple-day vacation, hung out. And actually, speaking of the devil, they just tweeted. It's Amazon Games Twitter, I believe they're called. Yeah, Amazon Video Games. I just retweeted it. But tomorrow, I'm going to be hosting the stream that is launching Mad Max, the video game, which looks absolutely ridiculous and
Oh snap!
very Mad Maxy. So it'll be fun.
What's the premise of the game?
You drive cars and kill people.
So it's like what was that game called from PlayStation?
Twisted Metal.
Yep, that one.
Yeah, but it's like Mad Max. That's what you could say.
Awesome. So, cool. I honestly, I thought it might have been something about like YouTube, because that launched today. So it's not a topic, but since we're at it, what do you think of YouTube launching today, Jeff? I mean, do you think anyone's gonna? Are you gonna touch it? I don't think you can. Is anyone with its Twitch partnered allowed to try it out?
No, I work for a company that's owned by Twitch, so it'd be very weird if I was to stream on YouTube. But I actually am of the opinion that any competition that is actually worth a damn is a really good thing for the scene. So no, I personally will not be using YouTube Gaming, but I am very thankful that they're there, and I hope they do a really good job, because that can only be better for everyone involved, except for perhaps Twitch and YouTube, because they'll be going to war with each other. But for everyone else, we'll benefit.
Yeah, competition is good. Steven, what about? Well, no, I guess I know the answer for that too. You're also not going to be able to try it. I mean, is that in the for those that don't work for a company that are just partnered? Are they allowed to use
Yeah.
other platforms?
Of course, unless they work out a private deal. But Steven will
well,
stay with Twitch unless they offer him a contract that they then don't pay out. Like that's pretty strictly what he does.
the Twitch stuff is almost anybody that gets paid by Twitch is on an exclusivity contract. But that it should be understandable why, right? Like, if somebody's
Yeah.
gonna pay you money to stream, they want they want you to exclusively stream on their platform. So
Yeah. Have you ever thought about like taking some time to think how you could get around that? Like you stream as Destiny Incorporated. However you have yourself incorporated, you stream as that, and then stream as another entity on another channel, and you license your content to that channel. Like, I mean, I don't know to what extent you can work around.
yeah, you're correct. You're talking about like white label projects, kind of. I mean, you could do it, but I mean, relationships aren't just all paper, right? It would
Yep.
look bad, obviously, and it would hurt your relationship with Twitch, and it would hurt your future negotiating ability with them as well, right? If they saw you doing stuff like that.
Yep, that's true.
Also, if you were to try to do like a bunch of scumbaggy shit like that, and it ended up going to court, I would never would, right? Because nobody makes enough money. But like, obviously, like you'd have to. It's pretty obvious what you're trying to do there, right? That's an abusive contract and shit. Like, you'd probably get in trouble for that.
Yep, that is true. So either way, Twitch now has a big competitor, YouTube. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of assets. They have a lot of benefits that people have already been talking about. We've discussed this on the show in the past. About 15 episodes ago, we were talking about it when YouTube announced it. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of it and all that fun stuff. But real quick, Jeff, tell me your best popsicle joke.
Popsicle joke?
So, you know, the stupid jokes you
Are we
find on
already
popsicle
at
stick?
the cringe hour of the late game?
No. We're just we're transitioning. See if off the top of his head he has anything.
Gotcha.
Do you know where your refrigerator is? Or no, is your refrigerator running?
Holy shit.
Oh, awesome! Thank you. So,
Okay, because I'm beautiful.
moving forward, let's talk. Let's save this one for first. WCS Season 3 has played out. One group now. Second group is going. That's Group F. The ones that are going in Europe. Yesterday was Group E. Gung Fu Banda, Lobo, Neeb, and Shanna. I don't know how you say that. It was a Terran. I didn't know him. But Gung Fu Banda and Lobo went forward. Gung Fu Banda taking the group 2-0. What was does anyone know what the drama was that happened between Gung Fu Banda and Lobo?
He dances units.
And that's what set people off?
Some. I mean, I'm guessing you're referring to the Reddit thread because I think that's where you get all your information, like, and you son of a bitch. But it's not really drama so much as just, like, that's minor form of bad manner. But Europe scene in particular, and I'm sure Mauro can speak to this better than even I can because I only vacation to Europe where I venture into the bad manner lands. But dancing units, dropping mules are all very common in Europe. So it's a little bit less common to do it in competition. So but it's not like Lilbo got up and like set himself on fire out of shame or something like that. It's like, okay, well, Lilbo's probably done that to him a million times as well.
Yeah. I didn't...
Wait, was this... Did anybody even make a big deal out of this, or is it only Reddit?
Well,
It's a single Reddit thread.
Yeah. Well, there was the
Okay,
Reddit
so-
thread, but there was some shit on Twitter. I guess Marine Lord made some picture. I can't remember what the insult was on it, but either way.
That wasn't necessarily because of the drug. There's a lot of people that think Gung Fu Banda is kind of dumb, like in particular. I don't know
Is
where
he a
this
Protoss
is based
player?
off.
Or... Sorry.
Oh, he doesn't
Yes,
even
he
know his
is.
race. Damn.
Is he? Is he? I don't know.
Yikes.
Anyway, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm just... Steve, we'll talk about League of Legends in a minute here. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Or Hearthstone, sorry. But yeah, he's considered to be dumb by a lot of the European scene. Like honestly dumb. They're not like imbecile or fool or idiot. They're like, actually, I think he's dumb. So that's what that Twitter picture is about, and that's what they make fun of him for.
Oh, such professionalism. Anyway. All right, cool. So either way, Gung Fu Banda, Lobo make it out. Neeb and Shanna. Neeb was the guy who was previously qualified for WCS as a Terran. And now he switched over to Protoss. I mean, he made it to the Premier League, which is pretty awesome. I believe he's the first to do so with 2 races. You guys who've been around longer, is that correct?
For WCS? Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably the only one, but...
Okay.
Not, it's more cool than anything. He's been playing a lot of
Yeah.
Protoss. The bigger thing is that he's like, I think he's actually 16 years old. He's very, very young.
Oh damn.
And even though he lost and didn't make it out of this group, he actually played pretty well and was impressive in his youth and in the fact that he switched races, like 5 months ago or something like that.
Yeah. So Gung Fu Banda and Lobo making out though. I assume no one has felt that was a shock. Zombie Grub.
Nope.
Nope. Cool. All right. Group talk is always the most riveting, right, guys?
We're gonna get the show out of here in 30 minutes or not.
It's gonna be a fast
Kick
show.
this thing, just pump it out.
All right. Now we're getting into macro mechanics, right? So for those who don't know, Blizzard made some big ass changes. Actually, Reaver, real quick. Some of those guys were Europeans. Maro, do you have any thoughts on them?
Thoughts on what?
Thoughts on Gung Fu Banda and Lobo?
I don't really want to get involved into that, but yeah, like I don't think
Get the fuck out of here,
like
Maro.
many people don't like Gung Fu Banda, but the reason I don't like him in particular is because of the attempted match fixing that happened quite a while back.
Oh, was that him?
Oh shit!
Yes, I could imagine that's why a lot of Europeans wouldn't like him.
Wasn't it just like, hey man, just give me the win, you're not going to win anyway, or something like that?
He offered him Twitter followers.
Yeah, something like that.
Was it like legit max fixing, or was he just like
No.
kind of like BMing, being an asshole?
He was being a dumb kid.
Okay.
Go read it up, make your own judgment. Like in my opinion, I think it was pretty shitty what he did. I'm glad he got
Sure, but when you say like match fixing, like I'm thinking like this is Starcraft and we had like the Savior scandal. Like match fixing carries some serious connotations with it. Like him talking shit in game, be like, I'll give you Twitter followers if you leave, you're gonna lose anyway.
I think
he was losing in a qualifying WCS game, and it was in game, which is what makes it so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
He asked him to he said, if you do leave, I will help you get more Twitter followers. I'll use my fame to get you more attention. I need this more than you, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that makes it so stupid is that he was being serious. It's not like he was just like jokingly like, leave the game, you idiot. It was like, here's my offer. Please leave the game. So, but it's recorded in game, and I don't think there's anyone observing it. But the player's just like, okay, save the rep, uploaded it, LOL, and then he was slapped on the wrist, I believe, by WCS as well.
So I was thinking about this the other day, and this is going to sound like a silly, like a stupid what if situation, but I mean it semi-seriously. If you were to sit there in a bracket and you were to say to someone, hey, will you mind just not playing this game? Like, can you just give me the win? If you're just saying, you're not offering them money, you're not offering them any kind of trade, you were just literally saying, hey, do you mind forfeiting your round? Would you count that as match fixing and hold the rule book against them?
Blizzard might.
I mean,
that whole like match fixing scandal type deal, that one was really kind of silly because both parties actually got a slap on the wrist.
Mm-hmm.
Gung Fu Panda was the one that was like, I'll give you Twitter followers, blah, blah, blah. And the other guy was actually kind of like laughing and like basically laughing at him and was like, oh, what? You'll give me $1,000? And Gung was like, what? Yeah, I guess I could do that. I can give you some money. And then the guy like laughed at him. But Blizzard took that guy's poking fun of seriously and even gave him a slap on the wrist too. So if it's a WCS qualifier and some guy is like, hey, please don't play, I need this.
Right.
I mean, that guy could be like a complete dick and try and make some drama out of it. And Blizzard might be like, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, but as far as not liking them as a person, Maro, are you surprised that they made it through the group?
No, like Gung Fu Banda is a very good player, and Lilbo, I mean, he's obviously amazing right now. So,
yep,
no shocker there. And they played against Nib and Shana. I don't even they're not even close to those players in terms of skill, in my opinion.
Okay, cool. Failed to change the topic for that whole show, but we're going to go into we're now going to go into macro mechanics. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and give a rundown for the viewers about what the macro changes were?
Sure. So, about Thursday of last week, they implemented the changes to Legacy of the Void beta. Mules are gone, Chrono Boost is gone, and Queens auto inject for 2 larvae on their hatcheries. Still reduces energy and all that stuff, but that's the only change to Zerg, but massive changes for Terran and Protoss.
Yeah, so playing the game, what are some of the implications, Maro, that you've seen having your mule removed?
Well, I mean, obviously, the first thing that he picks up as a Terran player is that the game slows down incredibly much. Like, you don't build orbitals in early game. So that's pretty much the biggest things immediately that you notice as a Terran player. But obviously, like removing macro mechanics like this has huge implications on the whole game. So just playing a few games is gonna tell you less than actually, discussing it or thinking about it.
Here, a question for Maro. Do you feel like enough really good players are playing Legacy of the Void to collect feedback at the highest level? Do you think, or at a very high level?
You mean for balance?
For balance purposes.
Yeah, like in the beginning, everything is so incredibly imbalanced that you don't need the best players to find out that something is stupidly broken. Like in the beginning, when Cyclones was fucking crazy, any player could queue up and realize that this unit is way too strong. Everybody's only building that unit, so...
Sure. I understand for that, but when you talk about things like removing macro mechanics, you're getting into an area where, like, entirely new builds are going to start to, like, emerge, right? And completely new play styles. Do you think that you would need, like, better players to test to change that dramatic rather than other players that maybe just copy builds from other people and don't necessarily know how to form their own builds? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't think changes like this ought to be tested to find out if they work or not. I think this is the kind of stuff that, I mean, obviously it's not to balance the game. So it's to see if the game works out long run. And you can't just test it out for 1 week to tell it if it's gonna work long run or not. Like this is the stuff that you theorize about instead of actually doing the play testing, in my opinion.
Jeff, do you think that's the way to go about it?
What specifically are you saying?
So to more theorize and actually try to play it out?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. So no, for me it's play and theorize. I don't see why you would do, unless you can't afford to reserve the game or you don't have access to the beta. I don't know why you would like restrict yourself to only theorizing. I don't get that at all.
I agree. I don't think theorizing alone. I think theorizing alone is absolutely worthless. I don't think you can get any good, valid opinions or feedback unless you have like. No, even with like the smartest, best gamers ever, I think it has to be played out, I think.
One of the issues I saw is that a lot of people quickly, and I'm not talking about the community before the changes were even made, right after, the chant, the mantra of, oh, they're dumbing down the game, et cetera, but a lot of pros coming out right off the bat saying they didn't like it, right? And I, from my personal perspective, is that I don't like that I have to come in and I find new build orders, because if you just take 2 seconds to think about it, you know that you can't go into this game as, for instance, a Terran and play the same way you've been playing, since the start of the beta or since a Heart of the Swarm, right? It's a new way, and that's actually very frustrating. That's why I haven't played much Terran. I've only played Zerg actually since the patch changed, because for the most part, and Steven, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I feel that there is less change to how you would play out Zerg than there is to Terran. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, fuck. I've probably played less than 100 games of Legacy of the Void total, but it does kind of feel that way. Maybe more would have better input, but it kind of feels like Zerg can pretty much do the same strats and the same kind of builds and the same general playstyles. The only difference is like against Protoss, you add lurkers if you want to win like really hard. But against like Terran, it seems like against Terran most things are unchanged, but what you did before got stronger, right? Because Muta control is kind of ridiculous now. And like Ultralisks got better, quite a bit better. And I think, was the Adrenal Glands upgrade changed as well to become better?
Yeah.
20%.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, so it seems like with Zerg, it seems like you kind of just do what you did before, but now it's like all better.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody? I don't know if anybody else gets that kind of opinion. But...
I don't think so. I mean, you could.
Really don't think so?
I think you could, but no, Ravagers are pretty good and much different. Lurkers are.
Yeah, but again, like even like Ravagers, like they build out of roaches, right? So you're not really changing that much. Like you can make a bunch of roaches, and then if you want Ravagers, yeah, you can kind of add them on. But for the most part, it seems like there's not any like huge changes to your playstyle or anything. Like everything is kind of falls into place. And again, I would say even Ravagers are one of those units where it's like, yeah, you made roaches, well now you can make them into Ravagers. So what you did before just kind of got better, you know?
Yeah, I agree with it, especially when you put it in context of like how much Protoss have to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, in comparison to others, sure, but I mean, I don't understand the analysis of like, I could add Ravagers. Like they fit a pretty specific role.
Because that's literally all you do is you add something to it, right? Like in ZVZ, you add Ravagers maybe. Or you add
what are we talking about different? Like what units would we are different?
Well, it's just like you don't really have to change. When she talks about adding things, it's like you're not adding things like changing your build. You're just doing the exact same stuff you did before, except now with like the minor change of like now that unit transforms into something else as well. You know.
I mean, you went from like all stalkers to like all adepts for Protoss, but for Berserk, it's still like roaches and hydras will still get you a good basis against most of the other races, and then you got to go to roaches and ravagers. It's just it's button. I don't know. It's a lot smoother.
So for me, I'm only diamond in the beta, right? I get this, but I want to talk from that perspective of someone that doesn't have perfect, foundation for StarCraft, right? Steven, Morrow, Jeff, even Zombie Grub, when you guys sit down to play, your mechanics are so solid that if you sit down and you decide, okay, I'm going to theorize and I'm going to put into action a build, right? You're going to say this change has been made. This is what I think I need to do. You're going to go down and do it. And then when you find out, okay, that doesn't work because of X, Y, or Z, at the very core, you know that you're never getting supply blocked. You're always making what you need to make. You're making the right judgment calls in comparison to the way the other units work, right? But for me, I go out and I try to make a build and I try to do something, and it's extremely frustrating because I will not only have to think, okay, did I win because I made a bad strategy call, or because this build, because I'm trying to develop a new build, isn't good, or is it because at my foundation as a StarCraft 2 player is complete fucking ass, right? So it's really frustrating, I think, for new players that are going to try to get
but I mean, that works the
level.
same way with the original StarCraft 2. That really works the same way with any game ever, you know? Like, if you think of, like, CSGO, like, well, what's the best gun for Terroricide? Well, obviously it's the AK. Well, AK sprays hard. I'd rather use the SG. Well, okay. I remember a long time ago, I had a StarCraft 2 player come up to me at a fucking convention and ask me for tips on how to make one of Hero's builds work. And he was like, I just can't, like, the timings just seem impossible to hit. And I was like, well, what league are you in? And he's like, well, I'm silver. Well, I was gold last season. It's like, okay, well, there's no way you're going to be able to make this build work, you know? But I understand the frustration, right? But that's the frustration that even as a pro player, right? I'm sure Moro you can chime in on this too. Like, even as a pro player, like, you have to do a build a few times. Like, just because you do a build once and you fail, like, you still have to do it because you have to ask yourself, like, could I change the timing a little bit? Could I have defended better? Could I have microed better? Could I have done something different to make this build viable? Or is the build actually bad? Like, even at the professional level, you still have to run a build like multiple times and make little tweaks before you can actually say, okay, this build is definitely bad. It's never going to work, you know?
Mara, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, sure, I agree with Destiny. I just don't see how it's connected to the topic that much.
Well, so from what...
Like the casual players right now in StarCraft 2, who's gonna change to, Legacy of the Void, I don't think it's a big deal for them to, relearn the things right here. I think it's a bigger deal for pro players, and what we're really striving for is to get new players into the game and have the game amazing for them is perhaps more important than for the players who want to relearn, getting used to not having chrono boost. I don't think it's a very big deal.
I think what Lycan is trying to say is Lycan says he's frustrated because, like, Lycan would like see where, oh wow, Liberators are really cool. I have an idea for a really sick Liberator Hellion build, but then every time he tries to do it, it ends up not working. But he doesn't know, like, is the build not working because the units are bad or whatever, or is it just not working because my mechanics are bad, right?
Right, and from two perspectives, both from the casual. So from the casual, it's I have to worry about a lot more being wrong with my build when I try to go in there and do that. From the pro player's perspective, and I'm completely empathetic to it, is that I can understand why a lot of people had a hyperbolic immediate reaction. It was, oh my god, they go into the game and it's completely different, right? It's no longer just, let me try these new units out. It's also, how do I effectively get these units out? Because it's no longer go Reaper fast expand into orbital command, then put down your expansion. It's how do you make an orbital command then start doing supply call downs to compensate for the lack of minerals, or do you
keep in mind though that the people that you're playing at your league also aren't playing perfectly, so I don't think that that's like as much of a
so take my casual ass out of it. The pros still have to go through that frustration, and I think that's what a lot of why at the beginning when these first came out we saw a lot of people getting extremely upset. I don't like this, but then we've had Morrow. You made some very good points, and I'd like to transition now into those. So talk about your experience with Protoss real quick. Give a summary of what you laid out for Reddit and Team Liquid the other day.
Oh shit! You're talking about my blog?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let's go into Chronobos, then I guess.
Are you literally playing right now?
Me?
Yeah, tomorrow.
No, I just feel like the topics are like going all over the place here. So
just change topic and ask you a question. You understand.
Sorry.
You're like streaming right now, aren't you, or playing or something?
In control, don't do that on me, okay?
I'm getting really
Yeah,
lost right now. I'm not sure what's going on.
it's like a huge topic, so it's hard to just
It is.
say
There are
something
a lot
about
of
it. It's
there are a lot of different thoughts, and they all
it's not
intertwine.
it's not the kind of question that you say it's good or it's bad. It's like
He
it's
said,
so
"Give
much
your thoughts on it."
everything. So
Mora, do you think that Desert would do a better job asking these questions? Is that what you're really getting at, or is this what we're
Just said,
getting
"Give
into
your
right now?
thoughts." That's all he said. He said, "Here's something you
All
wrote
right,
about.
all right.
Tell us about it." And you're like, "I don't
Okay.
understand. We're moving so
okay,
fast."
so removal of Chrono Boost. I was a fan of it. There's a couple of reasons for it. One of the biggest reasons is that I think Protoss has always been a bit cheesy because they always had the most options in their build orders and so on, forcing them always into playing gambler's game or by the odds and so on. So I think without Chrono Boost, it's going to remove a lot of options out of Protoss builds. It's going to make their race, without having as many options, they're going to be able to play more consistent. And I think that's really good. I think that's the direction that Protoss should be going in to become more like Terran. So, yeah.
All right, before we move on, Jeff, what are your thoughts on Maro's thoughts on Chrono Boost?
I didn't actually end up reading his blog. A lot of people really liked it, though, and I do like that everyone chimes in and has conversations about these kind of big change. I think that's really good. I don't know that I have the same kind of perspective a lot of people do. Like, I was very used to Chrono Boost, so obviously kind of what you guys were touching on a little bit earlier is true, where, like, you take something away, I don't know how that functions into the game that much. Like, do we need to cut down on all the Robo and Stargate build times, or do we leave them exactly the same and Protoss has to play for them very differently than they used to? I'm not sure. But in implementation, like, for me, I look at it as from the perspective of, like, okay, it's gone now. I'm not going to bemoan and just, like, throw up my hands and say this game's ruined and it's forever wrong. I'm going to approach it from the perspective of, like, well, I need to play differently now, because obviously you don't do a, proxy Oracle build with the intention of hitting 20 or 30 seconds faster than you used to, or whatever. So like, the first day I played, really frustrating. And I think, actually, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, but to be honest, it's not even just taking Chrono Boost away, it's coupling that with the change to Warp Gate. Like, the Warp Gate is as big, if not, well, I don't know that I would say bigger than Chrono Boost, but it's, like, really fucking close. It's, like, 55, 45 or something like that. Like, it's a huge change to Protoss. And for both of those to go through at exactly the same time, it's been very difficult playing. And I'm not saying that from the it's imbalanced and wrong perspective. I'm saying from the, like, having to rethink the way we play Protoss. So much of Protoss is, I'm going to pretend to harass you while I'm taking a fast third, or I'm actually fucking all-inning you right now, or I'm doing a super sneaky tech that you did not see coming, and it's hitting really fast and it's going to deal enough damage. But those things are, for the most part, taken away on some level, either through Warp Gate or through Chrono Boost. So this is a long-winded way of me saying, like, I don't necessarily know that I agree with him saying that, like, limits Protoss options and that's a good thing. But I would approach it from the angle of, like, we actually need to spend quite a bit of time playing with it before we can come to any kind of conclusion. I don't think it's good or bad just yet.
Okay.
So
Mark,
you don't agree that Protoss has always been the race with the most options, the most builds, and always has been the race that plays by the odds the most, and so forth.
I think they're definitely the gambler's race. I absolutely agree with that.
And don't you think that's kind of a problem, that if you decide to go with Protoss, you have to kind of you use the playstyle that you need to use as a Protoss, instead of having any race you pick that you can play with pretty much any style you would want to play.
I'm not entirely sure the point you're trying to hammer home there, but I guess speaking to the subject that you did elucidate fairly well was that they are a high-risk, high-reward gambler race that has a lot of options, but those options are very gimmicky, as people use. It's like a lightning rod word, or all-any. I don't disagree with any of those points, but I don't think it's mutually exclusively connected to Chrono Boost either. I don't think by removing Chrono Boost, all of a sudden Protoss players are like, aha! Now we will play definitively straightforward and our gimmicky ways are gone. Like, no. Just by design, so much of the Protoss race is fairly based on dealing damage to you and getting back home, or tricking you and dealing damage. And Chrono Boost was like a way to embolden that, but it didn't decrease from our ability to play the other ways as well. It just kind of gave us the option to do both fairly strongly. By removing Chrono Boost, you're negating both things. So, like, you know, all when tides rise, all ships. I can't fuck it. It's such a cool saying. I butcher it every time. But anyways, it's a across the board nerf. It's not just towards our gimmicky playstyle. It doesn't change that at all.
No, that's true. But if you remove Chrono Boost, let's say, then you're not going to be able to boost out probes. So playing a straight up macro game without having any threats of, you know, you're used to be all-ins, the opponent is going to be able to play more greedy, and he's going to get further ahead, and you're not going to be boosting probes. So naturally, Protoss is going to become a much worse race just by removing Chrono Boost, and this will, of course, be compensated later on. And through this compensation, you will actually get a race that's, you know, stronger.
Maybe that would have been true, but for the fact that they also
removed
removed mules and they also removed 50% of the production of inject. So everyone has more of a tough time producing and bolstering their economy. So Protoss are still going. They're not going to be able to. So like the analysis you're missing out on is like, we're not going to be able to Chrono Boost probes back at home while harassing because we're having a harder time warping in outside of our base in the early game. But in the mid game, when we have 2 or 3 Nexi anyways, we have a warp prism and we're harassing you and we're warping in at 2 seconds with a warp prism, or a gateway that literally has a gateway on it, or a pylon that has a gateway on it in the middle of the map. Like the ability to Chrono Boost probes at home is certainly a scenario, but if you look at like Lilbo, Petit Drogo, a lot of those guys, they're not necessarily Chrono Boosting probes, they're actually Chrono Boosting to harass. It's just that they're doing harass with sentries, which are mineral light, against Zerg in particular, and then they're able to spend the rest of their minerals on probes. It wasn't really Chrono Boost centric. It was more warping in outside of your base in the early game.
Okay,
but
so
I'm just gonna go with final thoughts here. I think removal of Chrono Boost is great for that reason, because I think Protoss is to the point of being too versatile, and I would like to see more of that from the other races instead. And yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to Chrono Boost. I don't necessarily think they should remove it altogether, since there's definitely very good sides about Chrono Boost, adding very, you know, complexity to every build order and so forth. I wouldn't have minded you know, an added cost to Chrono Boost to make it you know, so you could use it in like specific scenarios or something like that. But,
it's weird. It's weird to hear you say you wish Protoss was less
direction.
versatile. By the way, like what? What do you mean you want Protoss to be less versatile?
Oh, in the fact that you can go like in one direction completely with an all-in, you know, boosting out the upgrades or anything for that particular build, or you know, you could go completely the other direction, just boost out probes, maybe make a nexus or whatever. So Chrono Boost, you know, by that makes your race so versatile at doing, you can pretty much go whatever you want to do, and I think it's a bit too much.
Steven, go ahead and say what you were going to say.
I think what Moro was trying to say is that he wants kind of like you're trying to say that like you want Protoss to have like a few stable play styles, so that when you see like PvX games, what you're seeing are players in a meta that's fully explored and developed, like, and players that are playing good games with each other who are winning games because they're the better player, rather than Protoss being kind of like the, to use the word gimmicky, having like kind of like the different win button builds where it's like, oh well, he did that and I didn't scout it, and because I didn't prepare exactly for that, now I auto lost the game. And that's kind of the way that a lot of Protoss builds have worked, where it's like if you don't prepare for the exact thing, then well, now it's an instant auto loss, and sometimes it can be hard to scout because you don't know if that chrono +1 means this or that, or right. Is that kind of what you're getting at, Moro, or?
Yeah, I don't know about the one button wins. That's a different topic. But yeah, for example, like let's say just a blink all-in, Jeff. So you have like maybe 5 different blink all-ins right now, where you just maybe get 3 gateways or 4 gateways, 5 gateways, depending on how much you want to Chrono Boost, Warp Take, or Blink or whatever. But after this, through removal of Chrono Boost alone, you will have less possibilities within that tech branch itself, and you know, just addressing blink all-in, if you scout that, it's gonna be much easier to see something like that coming. and you know exactly what it is, and it makes the race itself more like Terran in that sense.
I mean, I can see what you're saying. I guess you're like, it's weird that you're using the word versatility in
Well,
what you're actually
I'm
describing.
sorry if my English isn't the best.
I
Maybe
know.
I'm using the word wrong.
No, I know. Inevitably, everyone always says that. But like, what you're describing is a Protoss picks a build, and they get from point A to point B so quickly that the window of opportunity for you to react to it and to scout it is very minuscule. But what was confusing is earlier we were talking about doing a build like that, but also chrono boosting out probes. And I think what's interesting, and if you read like Noni's blog, for instance, where he talks about this, that's actually part of the cool thing of Protoss is that they can fake an all-in while chrono boosting their economy or making a decision somewhere else. And in that way, they're tricking their opponent. And the reason why Protoss are kind of dependent on that is because I think we could all agree, once you do know what strategy a Protoss is doing, if you react fairly accordingly, there's no invincible Protoss build where it's like, well, that's extremely hard to hold off. It's always if, thens, and buts, and it's always I didn't see this thing coming. So with Chrono Boost, you're going to have more of I didn't see this thing coming, but it's at the cost of the Protoss being more able to reflexively react and be like, oh god, he scouted it. So instead of just going forward to the 5-gate anyways, I'm going to switch into like a third Nexus before I make units and try to make options that way. I'm not here to say that's good or bad, but I was just a little bit defensive about the idea of like, with Chrono Boost, Protoss is so hardcore, like they're so versed. I don't know, like it got really confusing with what you're trying to explain, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I think we have less options without Chrono Boost as opposed to more, and then I was confused by you arguing for that because I don't know that that's a good thing for Protoss.
Okay.
Well, I definitely mean that you have more options with Chrono Boost. You can go like extra economy, you can get extra on your timing attack or whatever, and I think less of that is better for Protoss because I think they have too much of that and all that trickery and fake all-inning which you're talking about. I would like to see Protoss walk away from that a bit and become more consistent as a race as a whole.
Okay. I think that's definitely a big discussion where a lot of different angles can be,
Guys, my dog's snoring in the background chat. Just chill the fuck out, Jesus Christ.
Well, so I hear the dog snoring, but who has a construction crew outside their house throwing shit in a dumpster? Like I hear crashing.
You?
No, that's not me.
I don't hear that.
Okay.
I don't hear that at all.
I'm just going fucking nuts. All right. Continuing on with the changes. So from a balance perspective, we cannot discuss balance at this point, right? This is a huge fundamental change, and the biggest thing we're trying to figure out is what this does for the game. So Zombie, I know you haven't had a lot of time to play it since you just got back and these changes were made while you were in Canada, but from a just observational perspective, theory crafting, whatever you want to call it, what are your thoughts on how these are going to affect the gameplay in the long run?
It is really tough to answer without having actually played much. Anything more specific, I guess, to be asked?
Okay, sure. You know what? No, actually, I wanted to know if like there was any I guess general idea you had about it.
But, I just thought it was like, I guess even before like it was actually implemented, I was just more curious if this was going to be a baseline. Like, what does the game look like without macro mechanics? So that if like, I'm still entirely on board either way, like no macro mechanics or yes macro mechanics, but I would actually want different macro mechanics. And if this is just like a baseline test of what the game looks like, slowed down and whatnot, and they're going to implement a patch later that has different ones, then it's kind of like my best case scenario right now. But obviously we have no idea what Blizzard's plans are.
Why different macro mechanics?
I just think that I'm like, we talked about this like last time in the late game or something or whatever, but I just think like, I don't like the idea of dumbing down the technical side of things where some people are totally on board. I thought they implemented the macro mechanics just because they realized it wasn't going to be as hardcore as Brood War was, and they wanted something that could appeal to players who have mechanical skill, and then it ended up not being as like desperate as they wanted to or as significant as they wanted to. But then just taking it entirely away is, I don't know, potentially taking away people like innovation really like showcasing themselves with the macro. But that was kind of different.
Prime, right? Yeah.
That was kind of a different, like entirely different conversation we had, like I guess over the last couple of weeks leading up to it. So that's why I think it'd be cool if this is just like Blizzard being like, oh, that's what the game looks like without macro mechanics. Maybe yes, maybe no to different ones, or even just entirely adjusting timings based off of it. I don't know, but right now, just exactly what they're doing here, if they let the game go in with absolutely no other changes, then of course that's not good. That's doubtful they're gonna do that.
Steven, how do you feel from Zerg perspective with your with the I'm sorry, not let's go broader. Let's just talk about the races in general. Chrono, Inject, and the Mule. With all those changes, how do you feel about the direction Blizzard is trying to take the game?
It's one of those things where I feel like I cop out to this so often, where you kind of have to see how it'll play out. On the few games that I've played so far, it does have more of a Starbow-ish kind of feel to it, and I noticed that a lot of people were throwing around words like scrappy, skirmish, and things like that. I do kind of get that impression more, that things happen on a smaller scale, which I do think is definitely something that almost everybody agrees that StarCraft 2 needs more of, right? Less of like the big death ball 1A huge battles that end the game instantly, you know? And removing the macro mechanics does kind of slow down the play. I don't necessarily know if like slower play like necessarily implies smaller skill ceiling, just because slower play does open up the potential for more of that kind of constant action skirmishy kind of stuff, and less of like the death volley kind of stuff as well. Yes, I don't know. It'll be one of those things where like once really good players are messing around with it a lot, I guess you'll kind of be able to see more how it plays out.
Okay, Jeff. Actually, Maro, one of the things that I really liked about Legacy of the Void when the beta first launched, and I think it's what everyone else said that they found refreshing, was how quick the game started, right? You had all those extra workers in bases, you know, you expanded relatively quickly and just started pumping out an army very fast, a lot of early aggression, things like that. With the recent changes, it's obviously slowed down the game again. One suggestion from a lot of the community members has been, well, why not try Double Harvest or one of those other economy mods and whatnot? They want to see the game sped back up. Do you think that that's something that Blizzard should explore before they stop making major changes?
Yeah, I think that's an amazing idea. The reason why the Double Harvest, why this model would fit so greatly right into this, is just straight up to speed up the game once again, but also because you can't rebuild workers as quickly now. Harassment has been is gonna be really good. Losing workers, like you can't, you know, compensate with mules or chronobos, and like Zerg players can't, you know, just blindly put all their larvae into drones if they tend to lose them or something like that. So if you have this double harvest model, you can actually take workers from different mineral lines and put them to the mineral line where you lost, I don't know, your whole mineral line. And it's great for that reason, but just in general, double harvest model is much better than we have right now. So Blizzard wanted to get to this, you know, expanding more, but through their way of doing it, I think it's good the way they did it right now. But the problem is that you're not really expanding because you want to, and it's more like you're expanding because you have to. You're never. Really
I don't buy that argument. People say that shit a lot, but like technically you never ever want to expand ever in any game, right? You just want to make the most units you ever can ever, period, right? Even in Heart of the Swarm, that's true. You don't ever want to expand. You expand because you have to, because you need more resources, because you need more gas, you know, like what. I don't buy that whole like, well.
Okay. So take this as example. Like you're playing Zerg against Mech. You want a shit ton of units. You want a shit ton of income so you can actually outproduce him. But in StarCraft 2, you don't want to expand more because you can't go past 3 base income, because you can't like literally you can't have more drones because you're gonna cap out the 200 food so quickly, and that's the problem with the way we have it in StarCraft 2 right now. Whereas with the double harvest model, you would expand more because you do want more income. But without building.
I feel like an easy way.
You get that like 5 base income that you were looking for, but you can't do that right now.
Sure. One thing that I think that would be really cool, and I know I think this has been hinted at or teased at before. I feel like raising the supply cap to 300 or 400 would be really cool in terms of making it so you can manage more bases.
You can't hold it.
Yeah.
You really don't. Why not?
That's
literally. You ever played like a 4 versus 4 or?
Yeah.
Like that? Well, not all of us have those $10,000 computers, Steven, but actually you can't do it. It just
Oh, you're talking about just in terms of the game like being laggy,
graphics,
right?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, that's a problem with, but I mean that happens even in 1v1s. I mean, fuck.
And you're talking about making it worse, yes.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, like there are ways. Say there are ways around it. It would be really hacky, but like you could raise the supply cap to 250 and like reserve like 80 supply for workers, so that it wouldn't necessarily impact. Like I don't know. That would be a really hacky way to do it.
Just
I guess
more models moving in the game just slows it down. It just makes the game intensive. That's the big part of the reason why they've also said that they won't do skins for the most part, like any major skins.
Okay,
Because
so
everyone would have to load their skins individually.
All right.
So another thing is wanted to mention as well, like if you can go beyond that 3 base income, is really good because you can actually get more production. Is something that we have never seen in StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
And it it adds motivation to spread around the map because you have more bases to hold.
And it
right
punishes.
now, punishes what?
It punishes turtley players too.
Yeah, exactly. So right now you're running out of money, and that's why you're expanding. So you can always keep that 3 base income intact. You grab another base, and the only reason you do that is because you already know that you'll be mining out soon on 1 base. So if you can, get more and more bases and more and more income, it's actually we're gonna see something we've never seen in StarCraft 2. It's just someone completely outproducing the other player just by having sick income, and it's gonna encourage more and more fighting, less turtley play, and everything. So the double harvest model is pretty fucking amazing. I think they should go into it. Of course, it would fuck up the balance completely, but I think the balance already is terrible in StarCraft 2.
All right.
Yeah,
Jeff.
it's interesting. The double harvesting is obviously a very strong argument that's going on in Team Liquid and Reddit. And for me personally, like, I think I actually played UMAR on like Legacy of this. I know they're playing quite a bit, but for me, I haven't actually had a whole lot of maxed out battles, and I have not had a whole lot of turtley games. Like, certainly these things could still happen, but I don't think of that as the, like, I feel like in Legacy of the Void, a lot of people are going to see a breath of fresh air once we move beyond WCS and Heart of the Swarm for, this season, and people start paying more attention to Legacy of the Void. Like, it is very scrappy, as Steven said, and very, like, smaller fights and more mid-game battles, as opposed to just, like, max out, slow fight, winner of the fight wins the game type of thing. That can happen. It has happened in HOTS and Wings of Liberty. So I don't really think of that as, like, we really need to find a way to get around this because it's really bad right now. But I'm not deterring people from focusing on that because maybe that's where more of their interest lies. But for me personally, I'm really excited about spending more time with these. Like, there's a lot of people that are very hyperbolic. Like, removing macro mechanics has made the game dumber. It's like completely imbalanced. We've had tweets from people on both sides. I mean, I was being emo as fuck too. Like, I'm not going to try to shirk the blame here. Where I was like, well, I'm going to play some Legacy of Void to see how long I last until I'm pissed. It's just very, very different, and I think that's interesting as well. Like, I think Terrans got hit about as hard. Some people are arguing even harder than Protoss. That might be true. Taking mules away is very different, but they have more scans. They're going to have more planetary fortresses. They're holding off on orbitals earlier on because they don't need it as much. But then all of a sudden, SCV all-ins are like completely gone. That's been a thing since the very beginning of StarCraft 2. They're going to have to get comfortable with like more scans, which is weird. But also, you're not like, it's not the end of the game and you're grabbing your 20 SCVs and throwing them at your opponent, and then you have a 20 or 30 supply higher army, which is also something Terran's been used to. So like, I've likened it to changing the size of the hoop in basketball. Like, it's such a fucking huge difference that, we're doing the show on Wednesday, but this change happened 6 days ago. So it's like, for me personally, I've had this experience. The first time I played with it, it was absolute shit. I got a headache immediately. I wanted to quit the game forever. The next time I played it, started off frustrating, but then as I changed my gameplay, I started kind of embracing these changes. I don't know that it's good or bad, but I was enjoying myself. So I feel like it's like one of these things where we should theorize, we should talk about it, but for the most part, everyone should be playing as much as they can to try and get a feel for it too.
Agreed. We're gonna halt it there. We'll come back. We'll see if anyone has any final thoughts on macro mechanics before we move into other topics, and then we will continue with the rest of the show. But until then, we'll see you in a few minutes. Talk to you soon.